morning, everybody. Welcome back to P&W Traditions. My name is Melanie, and today we have a lot going on in the kitchen. We're doing all things peaches, and we also have some sourdough projects. So, day in the kitchen with me. Let's get some things done.
Okay, so first we're going to start out dealing with some frozen peaches. So my husband was awesome and totally skinned and sliced all these peaches. So we got them laid out on a sheet and frozen, and I went to go try to pull them off the sheet and put them in a bag, and they weren't quite ready. So while those come to temperature a little bit on the counter, I'm going to deal with some sourdough that I had started the night before, and this is sourdough sandwich bread, which I will get the recipe on here sometime. But I started this last night and let it long ferment overnight, and this particular recipe makes 2 loaves. So I am just cutting it evenly in half, and then I like to roll it up. I heard somewhere that this makes it rise better, I guess has better spring. And so I'm just pinching the seams and getting this done up while my peaches warm up a bit. They wouldn't come off the pan. So I pinch the bottoms like that, and then you'll see me doing this kind of odd technique, and it just creates surface tension where you get that nice smooth top. So I kind of just scoot it and use the countertop. It kind of just like pulls on itself, and it makes the top nice and smooth. Okay, so now I've got those set to do their second rise. This is English muffin dough. So last night, or the night before, I mixed 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of water, and half a cup of active sourdough starter, and I just let it sit overnight. And so now this morning, it's long fermented. You can see it's super bubbly and ready to go. I'm adding 1 teaspoon of salt and a little more than a tablespoon of honey. It's probably a tablespoon and a half, and about a teaspoon of baking soda. And then today I'm deciding that would just be plain English muffins. If you were to mix this up and then follow the cooking instructions, that would be plain. Today I decided to zhuzh it up and try something new, and so I am making sort of a cinnamon raisin version. And so I put in about a teaspoon of cinnamon. I think it might have been a teaspoon and a half of cinnamon, and a half a teaspoon of cardamom, which if you've never worked with cardamom, it's awesome. It is warm but also very bright and citrusy. I absolutely love it. It's one of my new favorite things. And so here I have currants, which are just basically like mini raisins. And I'm adding in about, I'd say, 1/3 of a cup of currants to this. And then I'm just going to mix it all up. I like to use my hands for this. If you have like I can't remember if it's called a Danish whisk, which I have one, but I think it was getting washed at this time. So oftentimes I'll just use my hands for this anyway. And get everything folded in. You want to make sure all the salt and the honey and everything just gets fully incorporated. And in this case, this was the first time I had ever tried it, making sure that you're getting all the cinnamon and the raisins and everything. So you can do these in a cast iron pan, which I often do, but I discovered that I can do pretty much all of them at once if I use my griddle. And so I have been using this lately and it's worked out really good. So you want to set your heat kind of low. I think on this one I put it at like 225, and obviously if you're doing it on the stove in a cast iron pan, you want to just like the lowest heat you can have them on. These sometimes if you do it too fast, you cook them too fast on both sides, then they don't get cooked in the middle. So you really want to go low and slow on these. And you can see I'm just pinching off what I'm thinking is a good amount, and then sort of shaping it with my fingers to make it as round as I can. And depending on how big you make these, you could get anywhere from, if you make them really big, you know, maybe 6 for a single batch, up to, I think I usually get 7 or 8. I can't remember what I get today. I think it's 7. Yep. And, but if you make them really, really small, you could easily get 10 out of a single batch. So I am letting those just hang out on the griddle and get that first side really, really brown. And now my peaches have finally warmed up enough to where they're going to come off the pan. So I am bagging them up. And I had gotten, I don't think I mentioned it before, but I got a 20-pound box of peaches, and they're so good. You guys, so good. And peaches are my favorite summer fruit. I absolutely love them. So I was finding every way possible to preserve these. And I knew I wanted some frozen. And so you can see I'm just vacuum sealing these frozen ones. That'll keep them from getting freezer burnt. And I love these for smoothies, milkshakes. You can take them out and put them, I do a lot of breakfast prep, so I can put them in overnight oats, just anything. So I knew instead of canning all my peaches this year, I really wanted to do a lot of frozen peaches. So after I got that done, it was time to flip these. And as you can see, you want to wait till you have a very nice dark brown on the first side before you flip them. And they do stick to each other, so you really want to be careful as you flip so that they don't get all sticky and stick to each other. So you want to let those get brown on the other side. And like I said before, it's sort of a set it and forget it. You want to keep that heat really, really low, which is another reason why I like using the griddle. So while we wait for that second side, I am going to start in on some peach jam. And this is my first time using Pomona's pectin, which is super exciting for me because if you're a canner, you know that making jam involves boatloads of sugar. And we are trying very hard to be good in our house lately and eat natural sugars. And so this Pomona's pectin allows you to use honey, which obviously you see I'm doing today, or very low sugar. And what you saw me doing at the beginning right there in that jar was the calcium water. So it's a 2-step process with this type of pectin. So I mixed up the calcium water, which it comes with both a calcium packet and a pectin packet. And then for the amount that I was doing, I think I doubled the batch, which again, with Pomona's pectin, you can do that and you will have proper sets. I needed about 6 teaspoons, I think it was, and that was the whole packet of pectin. And so I'm mixing the pectin into my sweetener. Just want to make sure that it's thoroughly mixed. And so after I got that done, it was time to check on my English muffins. You could see they puff up and they're awesome. And you don't need to use cornstarch, or not cornstarch, cornmeal, which is often used. You don't need to use any of that. And they turned out great. And they tasted really good too. So back to the jam. I am going to start peeling. You can see this giant box of peaches. And I'm going to start peeling them, saving all my peels for my chickens. Another thing too is if you get peaches that you know for sure are unsprayed, you can put them in a steam juicer and make peach juice concentrate out of them. I think I'll try to make a video on that here pretty soon with steam juicing. So usually I am a person who wants to totally puree the fruit. I do not like chunks at all of fruit in my jams, but this time I decided to leave it a little bit chunky. I really enjoy peaches, and so I thought this probably isn't going to bother me, and it does. It didn't. I have tasted it since, and it doesn't. So I did leave this a little more chunky than usual. And I'm adding in a half a cup of, or not half a cup. Yes, it was half a cup. I added a quarter cup to the first 4 cups, and then another quarter cup to the second 4 cups. So I had 8 cups of puree in total, and a half a cup of lemon juice, which is also part of the Pomona's pectin. Oftentimes it does call for lemon juice. So you can see here, before I even heat it up, I'm adding in that calcium water. And that has some kind of reaction with the pectin. I don't know the science behind it, but I do know that it works in conjunction with that pectin to thicken it up. And I will say this stuff gelled up pretty well. In fact, I probably could have used less pectin. So that's something to know for the future. So once I added that all in, I'm bringing the heat up to where it's at a rolling boil. You can see it's bubbling. Even when you're stirring it, it still bubbles. That's where you want it to be. And then we're going to go in with the honey and the pectin, which we mix that pectin into the honey. Now we're going to stir this vigorously, is what the instructions say, for 1 to 2 minutes. So we're just going to make sure that we're constantly moving it around so that it doesn't burn. And after that, it's ready to jar up. Okay, so now that we've got it all jarred up and we've got our lids and our rings on, we're going to lower everything into the hot water. You want to work with everything hot so that you don't get any jars that crack. If you do big temperature differences on the jars, then they tend to split and crack. Just get them all loaded in, and then the general rule of thumb is that you want about 1 inch of water to cover the tops of your jars. So we're going to let that process, and while we do, our sandwich bread has risen. We're going to pop that in the oven. You want to get your oven really, really hot, like 500 degrees, put it in, and then drop that temp to like 375. And those usually go for like 35-40 minutes. And then this processing time, I forgot to mention, was 10 minutes, I believe. I think so, yes. For half pints, it was about 10 minutes. So it's not a long processing time. And you want to start your timer once the water starts to boil after you've gotten all of your jars in there. So once it boils, let it go for 10 minutes and it's done. And look at how gorgeous. Super bright yellow. You can see the little chunks of peach. So good. So now I'm going to go in with my second peach, actually third peach project of the day. And I just buzzed up more peaches into more of a puree this time, like not leaving any chunks. And then I'm putting it through a strainer because what we're going to do is we're going to make peach pancake syrup. Oh my goodness. So excited about the peach pancake syrup. I need to make more. I am going to try and get more peaches and make more of this because, spoiler alert again, it turned out amazing. So going in with honey. I think I used 1.5 cups for this one as well. And the lemon juice, I'm basically following the same outline as you do with the Pomona's pectin. However, I am not going to use Pomona's pectin. I am going to use regular Sure-Gel low sugar pectin. And the reason being is I had a half a package left. And I actually don't want this to set like jelly or jam. I want it to thicken, but I don't want it to set. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the rest of this packet that I had. And I'm going to add it in just so that it'll thicken and be more syrupy. So in the time that we got that on to boil, I mixed the pectin in while it was cold, turn the heat up, bring it to a boil. Same process. And we're checking the bread. I don't know if you saw, you can see once your bread comes up to 190 to 200 degrees, you can know that it's done in the middle. I don't know if you've ever pulled bread out too early and had it not be done in the middle, but you can actually temp check your bread to make sure that it's done. So we pulled that out. Sometimes I add butter to the top of the bread after it first comes out, but I wanted to move right over to my jam, or my syrup. So I'm moving right over, brought it up to a boil. Now I'm adding in the honey, and then we're just going to bring this right back up to a boil. Stirring it around, make sure to incorporate all that honey. Now adding in a teaspoon of butter, just because I noticed it was getting quite foamy, and that's a common practice with jellies and jams. So let's go ahead and jar it up. Okay, so now that we got those done up, I only got 4 pints of that syrup, you guys. I want more. I want more. So we're going to load it into the canner. And again, making sure that everything is hot when you do this. This one, however, it's not going to cover the lids. So I am going to have to add more water to this. I get pretty hot tap water, so I'm just going to go in with some really hot tap water and add it, and I have to add quite a bit to get it to come up over the top. If you're water bathing quartz, you really need to fill the water line to like that rim that you can see right there at the top. Got that one filled up. We're going to stick the lid on it and let these process for 15 minutes. I had to remember. 15 minutes, being that they're pints and not the half pints. Look at, again, so beautiful. Awesome color. And the lemon juice really does help to preserve that color. And you can see the texture. It's really, really nice. Just with that half a thing of pectin of the Tour-Sourdough, it actually sauced up really, really nice. So I had 1 jar of jam that did not seal, and so I decided to test it out. So we're going to take a piece of that homemade sourdough we made earlier and put some butter and jam on it. And let me tell you, it was so tasty. I have never made jam with honey before, and I am sold. It is so good. And you can see the set on it. It's set so well. So thank you guys for coming along in the kitchen with me today and doing all things peaches. I hope you guys try some of these recipes in your kitchen, and I'll catch you on the next one.